Bible, God's inspired word, says there came a sound from heaven, and that's the sound we need. The truth, present truth that can set you free.
We can become imitators of God. Question, why? Because we are His children. Ephesians chapter 5 says, "Be ye therefore followers of God because of who you are." Who are you? Well, you're a Christian. You're a child of God. How did you get to be a child of God? Through the precious blood of the Lord Jesus Christ. So we can imitate God, be a follower of Him, and we should be because of who we are. Now, my mom and dad used to say, don't forget who you are. When you leave this house and go to that party or that meeting or that gathering, don't forget you're a hunt, and that means something. Don't bring dishonor to the name. I am afraid today that much of the church world has brought dishonor to His name. Hey, I'm just being truthful with you. And for some of you, I'm actually saying what you're thinking. You've been thinking this for a long time, but I'm trying to say it today that we in the church world must be careful that we do not lower our concept of God, because when we do, we make idols and we worship them. And you see, friends, what happened in the book of Romans chapter 1, verse 21 can be the same thing that happens now. What's that? It says this, "When they knew God, they glorified Him not as God." You see that? It's because they forgot who He was. When they knew God, so they did know Him. But when they did, what did they do? Well, they didn't glorify Him as God. They forgot who their Father was. But number 2, it says, neither were they thankful. Now that word thankful is interesting. You know, we need to be thankful people. What does that mean? Well, in English, let's just look at the English language. The Anglo-Saxon root word for think and thank are the same. They're the same. Think, thank. Now that makes sense, because the more you think about God, the more thankful you should become. Interestingly enough, they glorified Him not as God. They weren't thinking about Him, so consequently, they weren't thankful people either. So here's how idolatry starts. You see, this is where it begins. When they knew God, they glorified Him not as God. Number 2, they weren't thankful. Number 3, they became vain in their imagination. Their foolish heart was darkened. It affected the inside. And guess what? It says they changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image, into a likeness, creatures, birds, whatever, and they worshiped the creature more than the Creator. People say, oh, we don't do that. Oh, let me tell you, friends, we have lowered our concept of God. We have lowered our idea of God, and we have made idols. Some churches, and you know, I don't joy in saying this, but it really is true, that some people actually worship. They worship worship. They worship music. They worship, the founder's picture on the wall. They worship that old pulpit that's been there for 100 years that John's brother's cousin's uncle built back in the 1800s. Don't touch it. Well, that's becoming idolatry. You see, friends, we in the church must never forget who He is, and we must never forget to be thankful, because if we forget to think about Him, we will cease to be thankful to Him, and that will affect our inside, and then we, in turn, will make poor decisions in the way we worship our God.
For more information, visit us online at acertainsound.com.